From the collapse of an overfilled reservoir in California after days of relentless rain, to a rare video capturing the exact moment a 95-year-old embankment dam gave way under its own weight, and the sudden disaster in Brazil that struck with almost no warning. Here are 10 massive dam failures that were caught on camera. 10th on our list. Sirdaryo is a lively region in eastern Uzbekistan, stretching along the banks of the Sirdaryo River, home to over 860,000 people who depend on its fertile lands for cotton and farming. Just nearby stood the Sardoba Reservoir Dam, a massive structure designed to hold back 922 million cubic meters of water for irrigation. But on May 1, 2020, that all changed. 5 days of ferocious storms battered the region, hammering the dam's walls until they couldn't take it anymore. The eastern side gave way in a thunderous collapse, sending a wall of water crashing into the fields below. Caught on camera, the flood surged forward, swallowing homes and farmland as panicked residents scrambled to safety. The footage shows it all, water bursting through the breach, a muddy tide racing across the landscape, unstoppable as it devoured everything in sight. The flood didn't stop at Sirdaryo. It crossed into northern Kazakhstan, leaving a trail of destruction over hundreds of miles. Homes became rubble. Cotton fields drowned. Damage hit $400 million hard. Rescue teams fought through the mess, but thankfully, no deaths were reported. Later, officials blamed design flaws and neglect, a lesson in broken trust. Sardoba's landslide scarred, a costly price for man's gamble with nature. 9th on our list. 9th on our list. Sayaboury is a rural province in northwest Laos, a land of rolling hills where farmers toil over rice and crops. On September 11, 2017, the Banqiao Dam stood as their lifeline, holding back water for the dry seasons. But relentless rain pounded the region 4 days, pushing the dam beyond its limits. The walls cracked and gave way, sending a muddy deluge roaring down the river. Caught on camera from a cliff, the flood swept through, dragging vehicles and drowning fields in a chaotic rush that stunned the quiet countryside. The footage of our 9th disaster reveals a muddy chaos in Laos, water tearing through the breach, unstoppable as it swallowed Sayaboury's countryside whole. Crops planted just days before vanished under the flood, leaving farmers empty-handed and heartbroken. Vehicles were swept away like toys, and the destruction left muddy scars across this Southeast Asian land. 2 years later, 60 families still waited for compensation, their lives uprooted by this sudden blow. No deaths were confirmed, but the loss of harvests and homes was a heavy price in this rural province. Namao's collapse turned a quiet corner of Laos into a symbol of nature's raw power over man's fragile works. 8th on our list. Ajka is a small industrial city in western Hungary, a Central European nation famed for its historic charm. Here, the Ajka alumina plant dam loomed large, a towering structure built to hold back 1 million cubic meters of toxic red mud, a dangerous byproduct of aluminum production. 4 years, it stood as a silent guardian over this chemical waste, nestled in the Banqiao Mountains, but by October 2010, cracks were already showing. Inspections had warned of weak spots, ignored by those in charge. Then, days of heavy rain hit, soaking the region and piling pressure on the dam's northwest corner, priming it for a catastrophic failure. The footage of our 8th disaster unleashes terror. On October 4, 2010, the Ajka alumina plant dam in Hungary burst, spilling 1 million cubic meters of toxic red mud. Caught on camera, the northwestern wall collapsed, and a blood-red wave surged into nearby towns. It swallowed streets and homes, a chemical tide burning skin and choking life. 10 people died in this flood, 90 suffered burns, as the sludge stained everything in its path. Even a dog couldn't escape its reach. The disaster turned Ajka's peace into a nightmare, a toxic flood roaring through Hungary's heart. 7th on our list. Liang is a bustling city in Sichuan, China, a vast Asian nation known for its towering mountains and ancient wonders. Home to over 3 million people, it cradles the giant Buddha statue, carved into cliffs centuries ago. The Liang Dam stood as a key structure here, designed to manage water in this rugged region. By July 2019, though, trouble was brewing. Weeks of torrential rain had soaked the surrounding mountains, loosening the earth. A massive landslide was triggered, poised to slam into the dam with unstoppable force, setting off a chain reaction that would shake this vibrant city. The footage captures raw chaos in July 2019. The Liang Dam in China was struck by a monstrous landslide, shattering its walls in an instant. Caught on camera, rocks and trees smashed through, unleashing a raging flood that roared down the valley. Workers fled in panic, one leaping from his truck as the muddy torrent swept away roads and homes. Downstream, the giant Buddha's feet sank into water. The worst flood since 1949 hit this ancient site. The deluge turned Liang's valleys into a watery graveyard, a brutal display of nature's fury unleashed on China's heartland. 6th on our list. Mariana is a historic mining town in Minas Gerais, Brazil, a South American nation famed for its rich mineral lands and vibrant culture. Nestled among green hills, it's a place where colonial charm meets rugged industry. The Fundão Dam, a tailing structure owned by Samarco, stood nearby, holding back millions of cubic meters of toxic mining waste from the Germano iron ore mine. By 2015, warning signs were clear. Cracks had appeared in the dam's walls, and engineers had flagged structural risks years earlier. Heavy rainfall and operational pressures only worsened the strain, pushing the dam toward a breaking point that would soon devastate this quiet corner of Brazil. The footage reveals a horrifying collapse on November 5, 2015. The Fundão Dam in Mariana, Brazil, gave way, releasing 43.7 million cubic meters of toxic mud into the Doce River. Caught on camera, the dam burst sent a brown tsunami, crashing through the village of Bento Rodrigues, just downstream. Homes vanished under the sludge, trees snapped like twigs, and the river turned into a poisonous scar stretching 415 miles to the Atlantic. 19 people died, hundreds were displaced, and fish choked in the muck as the disaster unleashed Brazil's worst environmental nightmare, staining Mariana's legacy with tragedy. 5th on our list. Auburn is a charming old rush town in California, USA, a North American nation famed for its diverse landscapes. Nestled in the Sierra Nevada foothills, known for its rugged beauty, it's a place where history and nature collide. The Auburn Coffer Dam, a temporary structure of clay and sand, was built here in the 1980s to aid construction of a larger dam on the American River. By 1986, cracks in its makeshift design were already a concern. Experts had warned it wasn't built to last. Then, a massive storm rolled in, dumping record rainfall that swelled the river and pushed the fragile Coffer Dam to its limits, setting the stage for a dramatic collapse. The footage shows a heart-pounding disaster on February 13, 1986. The Auburn Coffer Dam in California, USA, buckled under the storm's fury, spilling water over its top and carving through its weak walls. Caught on camera, the muddy flood surged downstream, tearing apart half the structure in minutes. Workers scrambled as the torrent ripped through, threatening Auburn's edges and forcing officials to frantically open downstream gates to lessen the chaos. No lives were lost, but the collapse halted a multi-billion-dollar dam project, leaving behind a soggy wreck and a stark reminder of shortcuts gone wrong. Run America's Wild West. Fourth on our list. St. Johnsbury is a quaint town in Vermont, USA, a North American nation celebrated for its snowy winters and picturesque landscapes, tucked along the Passumpsic River, known for its Yankee charm. It's a peaceful spot where nature rules. Upstream, the St. Johnsbury Ice Dam formed, naturally, in early 2006. A massive buildup of ice clogging the river after a brutal cold snap. Warnings came as temperatures spiked suddenly, melting the ice and piling pressure on the frozen barrier. Rain followed, swelling the river further and threatening to unleash a chaotic flood on this sleepy Vermont town.
Whoa. It's a flood. An ice dam just broke. I just started filming that at the right time, huh? Whoa. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. Oh my goodness. What in the world is this? Holy smokes. I've never seen this before. Oh my gosh.
The footage reveals a chilling Russian early 2006. The St. Johnsbury Ice Dam in Vermont, USA, shattered under the thaw, sending a frozen torrent crashing downstream. Caught on camera by a local, ice chunks and water surged under bridges, swallowing riverbanks in a wild flood. Residents watched in shock as the icy wave rose higher than ever seen, clawing at homes and roads near the Passumpsic. No lives were lost, but the chaos left St. Johnsbury's edges battered, a rare ice jam turning this quiet town into a fleeting scene of nature's untamed power. Third on our list. Uttarakhand is a stunning Himalayan region in northern India, a South Asian nation revered for its sacred peaks and ancient temples. Known as the land of the gods, it's a place where rugged beauty meets spiritual calm. High above, a glacial dam, a natural wall of ice, held back a massive lake in the Dollygonga River Valley. By February 2021, danger loomed. Rising temperatures and unstable slopes had weakened the ice, ignored amid climate change debates. Then, a colossal avalanche of rock and ice struck, poised to shatter the fragile barrier and send a deadly flood racing toward Uttarakhand's villages.
ये बेटा पार तो न गए कोड वो गए ये कौन फोन कर यार हड़के यार हड़के पाल में रेणी का है कंपनी का यार वो तो नहीं होता देखिए भाई तूफान आ रहा जबरदस्त कंपनी की तरफ जा रहा है ये कंपनी का
It
The
looks
footage unleashes a terrifying roar on February 7, 2021. The Uttarakhand Glacial Dam in India burst when a monstrous avalanche smashed through, releasing 27 million cubic meters of water and debris. Caught on camera, a dusty cloud turned into a raging flood, tearing down the Doligonga Valley and obliterating a hydropower dam below. Workers screamed and ran as the icy torrent ripped apart steel and concrete, claiming over 70 lives and leaving dozens missing. The muddy deluge roared through villages, a grim wave of destruction that shook India's Himalayan heart to its core. Second on our list. Edenville is a tight-knit hamlet in Michigan, USA, a North American nation known for its Great Lakes and sprawling forests. Sitting along the Tittabawassee River, a small community of resilience, it once thrived around Wixom Lake, formed by the Edenville Dam. This 95-year-old structure, built in the 1920s from earth and grit, held back the river's flow 4 decades. By May 2020, though, its age showed years of neglect and shoddy maintenance had weakened its walls. A fierce storm then hit, dumping 6 inches of rain in days, swelling the river and pushing the old dam to the brink of a historic collapse.
There it goes. There it goes. There we go. There's the rush.
The footage is jaw-dropping. On May 19, 2020, the Edenville Dam in Michigan, USA, gave way, its eastern wall crumbling as water burst through a muddy avalanche. Caught on camera, a resident yelled, "There it goes," as the flood surged, tearing apart the dam and racing 10 miles downstream to Sanford. Homes and bridges vanished under the relentless tide, forcing thousands to flee in panic. No lives were lost, but Wixom Lake drained dry, leaving Edenville scarred and Sanford swamped, a brutal testament to nature, overpowering a century-old relic in America's heartland. Final on our list. New Braunfels is a vibrant city in central Texas, USA, a North American nation famous for its German heritage and scenic rivers. Nestled along the Guadalupe River, known for its tubing and tourism, it's home to Lake Dunlap, a narrow reservoir cherished by locals. The Lake Dunlap Dam, built in 1928, stood as a 91-year-old hydroelectric structure of concrete and steel, holding back the lake's waters. By May 2019, its age was a silent threat. Decades of corrosion had weakened its spill gates, ignored amid funding disputes. Then, a steady spring rain swelled the river, pressing against the dam's fragile middle spill gate, readying it for a sudden and shocking collapse. The footage captures a stunning moment on May 14, 2019. At 7:49 a.m., the Lake Dunlap Dam in Texas, USA, lost its middle spill gate in a violent crash. Caught on camera by the Guadalupe Blanco River Authority, water gushed out at 11,000 cubic feet per second, nearly draining the lake in hours. Docks tilted, boats stranded, and the Guadalupe River surged as residents watched in shock. No lives were lost, but the collapse hit property values hard, leaving New Braunfels with a vivid disaster etched in video. Which dam collapse hit you the hardest? Share it with us in the comments. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. We'd love to have you with us.